The golden hues of sunset filtered through the dense canopy above, painting dappled patterns across the forest floor. I checked my equipment one more time. Specimen collection kit, environmental sensors, and my trusty field notebook, now weathered from months of expeditions. My name is Marcus Reed, a field biologist specializing in adaptation patterns of species in protected zones. This particular forest, designated as Eastern Preserve, was my current research focus, rumored to harbor unusual biological anomalies. The air felt different today, heavier, charged with an energy I couldn't quite explain. 3 months into my research permit, I had documented dozens of plant species and small wildlife, but nothing that explained the strange readings my sensors occasionally picked up. Government reports mentioned biological anomalies, but I was beginning to think it was bureaucratic language for we don't know what's out there. I pushed deeper into uncharted territory beyond my usual research perimeter. The Eastern Preserve stretched for hundreds of miles, much of it unexplored by modern science. My superiors at the Research Institute had granted me extended access, hoping I could document whatever was causing electromagnetic anomalies in the region. Just a few more samples, I muttered to myself, carefully collecting soil from beneath a cluster of bioluminescent fungi. The ecosystem here was remarkably pristine, untouched by the industrial sprawl that had consumed much of the continent. It was why these preservation zones had been established in the first place, to maintain biodiversity reservoirs after the environmental collapse of 2089. The sudden, piercing howl that cut through the forest stopped me cold. It wasn't the typical call of any wolves native to the region. It was too complex, carrying tonal qualities that seemed almost sentient. More concerning was the unmistakable note of agony embedded within it. I hesitated. Research protocol explicitly stated that personnel should avoid interfering with natural predator-prey interactions. But this sound, it pricked at something deeper than scientific detachment. Another wail echoed through the trees, this one weaker, more desperate. Protocol be damned, I whispered, securing my sample kit and moving cautiously toward the sound. The forest grew denser as I followed the cries, the underbrush catching in my reinforced field pants. After several minutes of careful navigation, I entered a small clearing and froze at what I saw. A trap, advanced, military-grade by the look of it, had been sprung. The contraption consisted of serrated metal jaws connected to what appeared to be an electromagnetic restraint system, and caught within it was something I couldn't immediately classify. At first glance, she appeared humanoid, bipedal, with recognizable arms and legs. But her form was covered in a short coat of tawny fur with distinctive dark rosettes. Feline features dominated her face, with high cheekbones, a slightly flattened nose, and large, almond-shaped eyes now wide with pain and fear. Pointed ears lay flat against her head, and I could see a tail, an actual tail, twitching in agitation where it extended from the base of her spine. Her right leg was caught in the trapped jaws, blood matting the fur around the wound. When she saw me, she let out a warning growl, bearing impressive canines. Her clawed hands scrabbled at the ground, trying to pull away despite the obvious pain this caused. "I'm not going to hurt you," I said softly, knowing she probably couldn't understand me, but hoping my tone might convey my intentions. I slowly removed my backpack and reached for my multi-tool, maintaining eye contact. "I want to help." Her growling intensified as I approached, but I noticed something curious. Beneath the fear and aggression in her eyes was a flicker of intelligence and assessment. She was evaluating me, just as I was evaluating her. The trap was sophisticated, designed not just to capture, but to incapacitate with electrical pulses. Military grade, definitely illegal in a preservation zone. I needed to disable the electrical component before attempting to release the mechanical jaws, or the shock could injure us both. "This might take a minute," I explained, as if she could understand. "But I'm going to get you out." Working methodically but quickly, I located the power source, a small, compact battery connected to the main mechanism. I carefully disconnected it, flinching as a spark jumped between the contacts. The trap's indicator light dimmed, and I heard a soft hydraulic hiss as some of the tension released. The Beastwoman's ears perked up slightly, her eyes never leaving my hands as I moved to the mechanical release. The jaws were under significant pressure, and releasing them would require strength and precision. This might hurt, I warned, positioning myself to pry open the mechanism. But it's necessary to free you. I counted, down from 3, and then exerted all my strength against the release lever. The jaws grudgingly parted with a harsh metallic groan. The creature cried out, a sound halfway between a human scream and a cat's yowl, before scrambling backward, dragging her injured leg. I expected her to flee immediately, to disappear into the forest. Instead, she moved about 10 feet away and collapsed against a tree trunk, examining her wound with surprising dexterity. The injury was deep, but the trap appeared to have missed major arteries. Still, it needed treatment to prevent infection. Slowly, I removed my first aid kit from my pack. I can help with that, I offered, displaying the antiseptic spray and bandages. She watched warily as I inched closer, her chest heaving with rapid breaths. To my surprise, after a moment's hesitation, she extended her injured leg toward me. Taking this as permission, I carefully cleaned and dressed the wound, using butterfly closures to bring together the deeper parts of the laceration. Throughout the process, her eyes never left my face, studying me with an intensity that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. When I finished, I secured the bandage and started to pack away my supplies. That should. My words were cut short as she lunged forward with startling speed, grasping my wrists in her clawed hands. I tensed, preparing for an attack, but instead, she pressed her forehead against mine in a gesture that seemed almost ceremonial. Then, in a voice rough with disuse but undeniably human in structure, she spoke. I, Alicia, declare you mate. By blood debt, by ancient law. The words hung in the air between us, incomprehensible yet unmistakable in their implication. Before I could respond, she released my wrists and stood in one fluid motion, seemingly undeterred by her injury. Come, she said simply, extending a clawed hand. My people must meet the one who holds my life debt. I stood frozen, a million questions racing through my mind. She was speaking English, accented and stilted but recognizable. She had a name. She belonged to a community, my people, she had said. And she had just declared me. What exactly? Her mate? I don't understand, I stammered. Who are you? What are you? Her head tilted, those feline eyes assessing me anew. I am Alicia, hunter of the Faliran clan. You saved my life. By our most sacred law, this creates a bond. She gestured again with her outstretched hand. Come now. Night brings danger. Hunters who set this trap may return. The mention of the trappers snapped me back to reality. Whoever had set that device clearly knew of her existence and meant her harm. The researcher in me was overwhelmed with questions, but the human in me recognized the immediate danger. With only slight hesitation, I took her hand. Her fur was soft, her grip strong as she led me deeper into the forest, away from my mapped research territory and into a world I never knew existed. The journey through the forest was surreal. Alicia moved with natural grace despite her injury, navigating the dense undergrowth without hesitation. She occasionally paused, head tilted as if listening to frequencies beyond my perception, before changing her direction slightly. I tried several times to ask questions, but she responded to each with a quiet later or simply a gesture for silence. As twilight deepened into night, the forest transformed. Bioluminescent fungi grew more prevalent, casting an ethereal blue glow across our path. Strange sounds, calls and responses I couldn't identify, echoed through the canopy above. My scientific mind was racing, cataloging every new observation, even as anxiety gnawed at my stomach. I was violating at least a dozen research protocols, potentially jeopardizing my career, and following a creature I couldn't classify into unknown territory. Yet something deeper than professional curiosity drove me forward. The trap had been deliberately set, Someone knew of Alicia's existence and meant her harm. That same someone might return to check their trap. The implications were disturbing. After what seemed like hours of travel, Alicia slowed her pace. Ahead, I could make out the soft glow of what appeared to be settlements. Structures nestled organically among the trees rather than imposing upon them. Dwellings had been built around massive tree trunks, with interconnected platforms and bridges spanning the gaps between them. The architecture was both primitive and ingenious, using natural materials in ways that minimized environmental impact. Faliran Village, Alicia announced softly. My home. As we approached, figures emerged from the structures, first a few, then dozens. They resembled Alicia in their feline characteristics, though I noted variations in fur patterns, coloration, and physical builds. Some appeared more heavily muscled, with darker markings, while others were slighter, with paler fur. All wore simple garments of woven plant fibers and leather, adorned with what appeared to be bones and colorful stones. Their reaction to my presence was immediate and alarming. Several of the larger individuals, males, I presumed, moved forward with aggressive postures, some bearing spears or curved blades that gleamed in the bioluminescent light. Alicia stepped in front of me, her posture suddenly rigid. She spoke rapidly in a language I didn't understand, a complex series of growls, purrs, and distinct vocalizations that seemed to have grammatical structure. The confrontation continued for several tense minutes, with voices rising and falling in what appeared to be heated debate. Finally, a massive male with jet black fur and striking yellow eyes stepped forward. Unlike the others, he wore elaborate decorations. Bone fragments wrapped in colorful fibers hanging from his neck and wrists, and a headdress adorned with feathers. "You bring human to sacred ground," he said in heavily accented English, each word deliberate and careful. "This forbidden." Alicia straightened despite her injury. "Elder Quran, this human freed me from death trap. By blood debt law, I have declared a mate." A collective gasp rippled through the gathered crowd. The declaration clearly held significant cultural weight. Elder Quran's eyes narrowed as he scrutinized me. "Human cannot be mate," came another voice, deeper and filled with obvious disdain. A powerfully built male with russet fur pushed his way to the front. Unlike most of the others, his arms and chest were covered in what appeared to be ritualistic scarring, deliberate patterns that stood out as raised ridges beneath his fur. "Alicia speaks foolishness." "I speak ancient law, Drath," Alicia countered, a low growl underlining her words. "You know this truth." Drath's lips pulled back to reveal impressive fangs. "I was to be your mate." This was agreed. The tension was palpable, and I felt increasingly like a diplomatic incident waiting to happen. I cleared my throat and stepped forward, ignoring Alicia's attempt to keep me behind her. "My name is Marcus Reed," I said clearly, addressing Elder Quran rather than Drath. "I'm a biological researcher studying this preserve." I found Alicia caught in a trap, a dangerous, advanced device that shouldn't exist in a protected area. I helped free her, treated her wound, and she declared me her mate, which I still don't fully understand. I mean no disrespect to your people or your territory. Elder Quran studied me with unnerving intensity before turning to two ancient-looking females at his side. They conversed in their native language, their expressions grave. Finally, he turned back to me. "Human may stay until next moon." His gaze shifted to Alicia. "Council will discuss blood debt claim. Until then, human is your responsibility, Alicia." "I reject this." Drath snarled. "Human is trespasser. Probably works with trappers." Silence. Elder Quran's voice carried surprising authority. "Ancient laws are not yours to question, Drath. Go cool your blood." With a final glare in my direction, Drath stalked away, several like-minded members of the community following in his wake. The crowd slowly dispersed, though many continued to cast curious or suspicious glances back at me. Alicia's posture relaxed slightly. "Come," she said. "You stay in my dwelling until council decides." As I followed her toward one of the elevated structures, my mind raced with implications. The Faliran, as they called themselves, were clearly an intelligent species that had remained hidden from broader human knowledge. They had language, culture, social hierarchy, and, apparently, very specific laws regarding life debts. And now I was enmeshed in their society, caught between ancient traditions and what appeared to be significant internal tensions. Alicia, I said quietly as we ascended a spiraling walkway wrapped around a massive tree trunk. I need you to explain what's happening. What does mate mean in your culture? Why is Drath so angry? And how do you speak English? She paused at a platform that extended from the trunk, gesturing me toward what appeared to be a dwelling crafted from woven grasses and wood. Inside, she said, not safe to speak openly. The interior of Alicia's dwelling was surprisingly spacious, illuminated by containers of the same bioluminescent fungi I'd observed in the forest. Simple furnishings, woven mats, low tables, and what appeared to be a sleeping platform covered in soft furs occupied the space. More striking were the personal items, carefully crafted tools, containers made from gourds and wood, and what appear to be crude sketches on bark panels depicting hunts and forest scenes. Alicia secured the entryway with a series of complex knots before turning to face me. Now, in the soft blue light, I could study her more carefully. Despite her feline characteristics, her expressions were remarkably human. I could read concern, exhaustion, and wariness in the set of her features. You have questions, she said, settling onto a mat and gesturing for me to do the same. I will try to explain. Let's start with how you speak English, I suggested, carefully lowering myself across from her. Some of us learn human speech, she replied. For generations, we watch, we listen. Some brave ones go to edges of human settlements, learn words. I am village translator. A hint of pride colored her voice. I speak best human words. And your people, the Phaliran, you've been here all along? In the Eastern Preserve? Alicia's ears flattened slightly. Not always here. Long ago, different forests. Humans destroy, build cities. We move. Again. Now here, in what you call preserve. Few humans come here. Safer. The implications were staggering. An entire intelligent species had been living alongside humanity, retreating further into shrinking wilderness areas as human development expanded. 1,000 scientific questions bubbled up, but I focused on the most pressing personal one. Alicia, you declare me your mate. What does that mean exactly? Her gaze grew intense. Blood debt is sacred. When one Phaliran saves another from certain death, bond is formed. Cannot be broken. She touched the bandage on her leg. You saved my life. By ancient law, we are now life bonded. Mate bonded. But I'm not Phaliran, I pointed out. Surely your laws don't apply across species. Law is law, she said simply. Has never happened with human before. This is why council must discuss. She hesitated, then added, Drath was chosen to be my mate. Strong hunter, respected warrior. Now bond is complicated. The cultural implications were fascinating, but also concerning. I'd inadvertently disrupted what appeared to be an important social arrangement. I don't want to cause problems for you or your community. Perhaps I should leave once the council has met. Alicia's expression grew alarmed. No, trappers return. Dangerous for you now. She leaned forward. Trappers, not normal hunters. Have machines, weapons. Hunt my people for many seasons. You interfered. They will hunt you too, if they discover. A chill ran down my spine. Who are they? Poachers. More than poachers, she said grimly. Organized. Patient. They study our patterns, set traps where we hunt. Take captured Phaliran away. Those taken never return. Her words painted a disturbing picture. This wasn't random poaching. It sounded like systematic capture. Do you know what they want? Why they're capturing your people? Alicia shook her head. Some say for fur. Others believe for study, like animals in cages. Elder Quran thinks for. She searched for the word, experiments. The conversation was interrupted by a soft rapping at the entrance. Alicia tensed momentarily before relaxing as a voice called out in the Phaliran language. She responded and untied the knots securing the doorway. A slender female entered, carrying what appeared to be wooden bowls containing food. Unlike Alicia's tawny coat, This Faliron had pale, almost silver fur with subtle darker markings. She regarded me with open curiosity rather than hostility. "This is Nira," Alicia explained. "My sister-kin. She brings food." Nira set down the bowls and spoke rapidly to Alicia, occasionally glancing in my direction. Their conversation continued for several minutes before Nira departed with a final curious look at me. "What was that about?" I asked once we were alone again. "She brings news," Alicia said, pushing one of the bowls toward me. "Drath gathers supporters. Says human presence endangers tribe. Wants you gone." She indicated the food. "Eat. We talk more after." The meal consisted of roasted roots, berries, and what appeared to be some kind of smoked fish. Despite my apprehension, hunger won out, and I found the simple fare surprisingly flavorful. As we ate in silence, I considered my situation. I had stumbled into something far bigger than my research mission, a hidden intelligent species, systematic hunting of sentient beings, and now tribal politics in which I was unwittingly central. After we finished eating, Alicia collected the bowls and set them aside. "You should rest," she said. "Tomorrow will bring challenges." "Where should I sleep?" I asked, looking around the one-room dwelling. "Here," she said simply, gesturing to the fur-covered platform. I guard. Too exhausted to argue about sleeping arrangements, I settled onto the surprisingly comfortable bed. As I drifted toward sleep, my last conscious image was of Alicia sitting cross-legged near the entrance, her profile sharp against the dim bioluminescent light, keeping watch as she had promised. Morning came with the distant calls of unfamiliar birds and the soft murmur of voices outside. I opened my eyes to find Alicia already awake, applying some kind of herbal paste to her wounded leg. The injury looked better than I expected. The medical knowledge was clearly effective. "How are you feeling?" I asked, sitting up and stretching my stiff muscles. "Healing," she replied. "Today council meets. You must come." After a quick meal of fruits and what tasted like a nutty bread, we descended from Alicia's dwelling. The village was fully visible in daylight, even more impressive than it had appeared the night before. The Faliron had constructed their community with remarkable ingenuity, using the natural forest structure as foundation and framework. Rope bridges connected platforms at various levels, while ground dwellings nestled between massive root systems. Children, recognizable by their smaller size and playful behavior despite their feline features, darted between structures under the watchful eyes of adults. Many Faliron stopped their activities to stare as we passed. Some expressions were merely curious, others openly hostile. I noticed Drath among a group of warriors, his scarred arms crossed as he tracked our progress with narrowed eyes. "Don't show fear," Alicia murmured. "Respect, but no fear." The council gathering took place in what appeared to be a central meeting area, a large circular platform surrounding an ancient tree with carved wooden seats arranged in a semicircle. Elder Karan and 4 other elders, 2 male, 2 female, occupied the central positions. The rest of the community gathered around the edges, creating a space that reminded me of ancient amphitheaters. I was directed to stand in the center alongside Alicia. Elder Karan began the proceedings in the Faliron language, his deep voice resonating across the gathering. After several minutes, he switched to heavily accented English. "Human researcher," he addressed me formally, "you stand before Faliron Council. Alicia claims ancient blood debt bond with you. This never happened with human before. Council must decide." One of the female elders spoke next. "Tell us why you were in Sacred Forest. Tell truth." I took a deep breath. "I'm a biological researcher studying adaptation patterns in protected environments. My government granted me permission to conduct research in the Eastern Preserve. I've been collecting samples and data for 3 months, documenting plant and animal species. I had no knowledge of your people's existence until I found Alicia trapped yesterday." "The trap," Elder Karan said gravely. "Describe it." I detailed the mechanical and electrical components of the device, explaining how it was far more sophisticated than standard animal traps. "It was designed to capture and incapacitate without killing," I concluded, "and it was illegally placed in a protected environmental zone. Murmurs spread through the assembled Faliran. Elder Quran conferred briefly with the other council members before continuing. 7 Faliran taken this season, he said grimly. Always same traps. Always taken alive. His yellow eyes fixed on me. Your kind hunts us. Not my kind, I responded firmly. Whoever set those traps is breaking human laws as well. The Eastern Preserve is protected territory. No hunting of any kind is permitted. Yet they hunt, countered one of the male elders. With machines and weapons beyond our fighting. The debate continued for nearly an hour. I explained human conservation laws, research protocols, and expressed my shock at learning of the Faliran's existence and the threat they faced. Throughout, Alicia remained by my side, occasionally translating concepts I struggled to convey or clarifying cultural misunderstandings. Finally, Drath stepped forward, requesting permission to speak. Elder Quran granted it with a nod. This human cannot be trusted, Drath declared, his voice carrying across the gathering. How convenient he appears when traps increase. How convenient he saves Alicia, claims ignorance. He turned to address the wider community. I say he works with trappers, learns our ways, our weaknesses. Then more of us disappear. Angry murmurs rippled through the crowd. I started to protest, but Alicia stepped forward first. Drath speaks from wounded pride, not wisdom, she stated firmly. If Marcus worked with trappers, why free me? Why treat my wounds? Why come to village when he could learn location, return with others? She turned to face the elders directly. I have studied human language, human ways. This one's eyes hold truth, not deception. Pretty words from one already under blood bond influence. Drath scoffed. I challenge human to prove loyalty. If he truly wants to help Faliran, he will help destroy traps, fight against those who hunt us. The challenge hung in the air, and I realized it was both a test and a trap. If I refused, I would confirm their suspicions about my intentions. If I agreed, I would be committing to possible violence against other humans, potentially risking my career, freedom, or even life. Before I could respond, commotion erupted at the edge of the gathering. 3 Faliran scouts burst into the circle, speaking rapidly in their native language. The words conveyed urgency even if I couldn't understand them. Elder Quran rose immediately, listening intently before addressing the community. Trappers returned. Many humans with weapons approached from south border. Panic swept through the gathering. Parents rushed to collect children, warriors gathered weapons, and the elders began issuing rapid commands. In the chaos, Alicia grasped my arm. Now you choose, she said, her eyes intense. Leave us to fate, or stand with Faliran. The decision wasn't as difficult as it should have been. I'll help you, I said firmly. But we need a plan, not just weapons. How many trappers are there? What kind of equipment do they have? Alicia relayed my questions to the scouts, who responded rapidly. She translated, 8 humans. Carry metal sticks that shoot fire and pain. Guns, I clarified grimly. They're armed with guns. Elder Quran approached us, his expression grim. Council agrees if human helps defend against trappers, blood bond will be recognized. He fixed me with a penetrating stare. But know this, betrayal means death. I understand, I replied. But fighting directly against armed men would be suicide. We need strategy, not confrontation. Over the next frantic minutes, I worked with Alicia, Drath, who remained suspicious but pragmatic, and several other warriors to develop a plan. The Faliran knew the forest intimately, every path, hiding place, and natural feature. We would use that knowledge to our advantage. We need to separate them, I explained, sketching a rough map in the dirt. Small groups are easier to confuse and frighten. The Faliran should create distractions, sounds from different directions, glimpses of movement, anything to make them nervous and disoriented. Drath nodded reluctantly. We are skilled at forest stealth. But what are their fire sticks? If we can separate them enough, we might be able to disarm them one by one, I suggested. But no killing unless absolutely necessary. If trappers die, more will come looking for them. As the warriors dispersed to take positions, Alicia and I moved to higher ground that overlooked the southern approach. Through gaps in the canopy, I could make out figures moving methodically through the forest. Men in camouflage gear, carrying rifles and what appeared to be specialized capture equipment. Those aren't random poachers, I whispered. They're too well-equipped, too organized. Alicia's ears flattened against her head. Who then? I don't know, I admitted. But their equipment looks military-grade or advanced private security. This isn't opportunistic hunting. It's a planned operation. The Faliran plan sprang into action as the intruders approached the village perimeter. Warriors hidden in the trees began creating distractions, strange calls, rustling vegetation, glimpses of movement that drew the trappers' attention in different directions. Gradually, the human hunting party began to separate as individuals pursued what they thought were potential targets. One trapper, now isolated from his companions, passed directly below our position. With a nod to Alicia, we moved silently down the tree. Using techniques she demonstrated, we approached from behind. I held my breath as the man paused, seeming to sense something amiss, but before he could turn, Alicia had launched herself in a silent leap, knocking him forward. I rushed in to secure his weapon, while Alicia rendered him unconscious with a precision strike to the back of the neck. Effective, I whispered, examining the unconscious man. His gear was unmarked, no logos, no identifying patches. But the quality was undeniable. Military or paramilitary equipment, not standard hunting gear. We secured him with vines and continued moving. Throughout the forest, similar scenes played out as Faliran warriors systematically isolated and neutralized the intruders. My respect for their combat skills grew with each encounter. They moved with incredible silence and coordination, using their natural strengths and intimate knowledge of the terrain. We had accounted for 7 of the 8 trappers when a scream echoed through the forest, a Faliran cry of pain. Alicia's head snapped in the direction of the sound, her eyes widening. Nira, she gasped, already moving. We crashed through the underbrush toward the sound, abandoning stealth for speed. As we broke into a small clearing, I saw Alicia's sister pinned beneath some kind of weighted net, struggling futilely. Standing over her was the final trapper, a tall man with cold eyes who was aiming some kind of specialized tranquilizer gun at her. Without thinking, I charged forward with a shout. The man turned, swinging his weapon toward me instead. I hit the ground in a diving roll as he fired, the dart whistling over my head. The distraction gave Alicia the opening she needed. She leapt from the opposite side of the clearing, a blur of tawny fur and extended claws. The man was more prepared than his companions. He sidestepped her attack and produced a secondary weapon, a shock baton that crackled with electrical energy. Alicia cried out as it connected with her shoulder, sending her tumbling to the ground. I scrambled to my feet as the man turned back toward me. Research Institute personnel, he said with surprise, noting my equipment vest. You're interfering with classified operations, scientist. Stand down. Classified operations? I repeated incredulously. This is a protected environmental zone. You're engaged in illegal poaching of sentient beings. A cold smile spread across his face. Sentient? Interesting classification. The official designation is unidentified cryptid species. Valuable research subjects. For whom? I demanded, circling slowly, trying to keep his attention while Alicia recovered behind him. That's need to know, he replied. And you don't. Last warning to stand down, researcher. From the corner of my eye, I saw Alicia rising silently and Drath approaching from the forest edge. I needed to keep the trapper talking just a moment longer. These beings have language, culture, society, I argued. What you're doing is kidnapping, not specimen collection. Semantics, he shrugged. The biofarm applications alone justify. He never finished the sentence. Alicia and Drath struck simultaneously from opposite sides. The man was skilled, but outnumbered and outmatched in close quarters. Within seconds, they had him subdued on the ground. I rushed to free Nira from the weighted net, while Drath secured the final trapper. The aftermath was chaotic, cataloging captured equipment, treating injuries. 3 Faliran warriors had sustained wounds, though none fatal, and determining what to do with the human captives. Elder Quran called a council session immediately. The captured leader of the trappers was brought before the gathered Faliran, his hands bound, but otherwise unharmed. "Who sent you to hunt our people?" Elder Quran demanded. The man remained silently defiant until Drath suggested traditional Faliran questioning methods, which from his tone, I gather were not pleasant. At that point, the trapper decided cooperation might be the better option. Nexus Biologics, he finally admitted. Private research corporation. They're developing biological compounds based on your physiological adaptations. Accelerated healing, enhanced senses, muscle efficiency. Worth billions on the pharmaceutical market. The revelation sent ripples of shock through the Faliran assembly. They weren't being hunted as trophies or simple research specimens. Their biological uniqueness was being exploited for profit. "How many of our people have been taken?" Alicia demanded. "Dozens over the years," the man replied with disturbing casualness. "The research facility is about 60 miles east of here. Highly secured." My mind raced with implications. If what he was saying was true, Faliran were being held in a corporate facility, subjected to who knows what kinds of experimentation and extraction procedures. The ethical violations were staggering. "We must free them," Drath declared, to murmurs of agreement from the assembled warriors. "That would be suicide," the trapper said with a smirk. "The facility has military-grade security. You'd never get within a mile of it." I stepped forward. "But I said, an idea forming. As a research institute biologist, I could request a facility tour under the guise of professional interest." Elder Quran studied me carefully. "You would do this? Risk yourself for Faliran captives?" The question gave me pause. Hours ago, I'd been a scientist documenting fungal samples. Now, I was contemplating corporate espionage and a rescue operation. Yet looking at the faces around me, Alicia, Nira, even the grudgingly respectful Drath, I knew there was only one ethical choice. "Yes," I said firmly, "but I'll need help and a detailed plan." The next 3 days were a flurry of preparation. The trappers were kept under guard while we gathered intelligence and developed a strategy. Using information extracted from their communications equipment, I was able to establish the exact location of the Nexus Biologics facility and its general layout. One particularly valuable piece of intelligence was the discovery that the company was hosting an open house for potential investors and academic partners the following week. The perfect cover for my infiltration. Alicia rarely left my side during the planning, her determination matching my own. Our forced proximity and shared purpose had created something beyond the blood debt she had initially declared, a genuine partnership built on mutual respect and growing affection. She insisted on accompanying me to the facility despite the dangers. "Too dangerous," I argued. "They know what Faliran look like. They're hunting you specifically." "I am Hunter," she countered firmly. "Best tracker in clan. You need me." In the end, we compromised. Alicia would remain hidden in the forests near the facility, ready to assist with the escape once I had located the captives and disabled key security systems. Drath and 5 other warriors would form an extraction team, waiting at predetermined coordinates for my signal. On the morning of the operation, tension hung heavy in the Faliran village. I had donned my most professional attire, thankfully kept in my research station, and prepare my cover story. I would pose as a visiting researcher interested in Nexus Biologics' adaptive biological compounds, requesting a tour of their facilities. "Remember the plan?" I told Alicia as we prepared to depart. "If I don't send a signal by nightfall, retreat and regroup. Don't attempt a rescue alone." Alicia's expression was solemn as she placed a hand on my chest. "Your heart beats strong. Trust it when in danger." She pressed her forehead against mine in what I now understood was a gesture of deep connection in Faliran culture. "Return to me, mate bond." The journey to the facility took most of the day. As we neared our destination, the forest gradually gave way to cleared land and then the imposing perimeter of the Nexus Biologics compound. From our vantage point on a forested ridge, we could see the main building, a sleek, modern structure of glass and steel that belied its sinister purpose. Security patrols perimeter every 30 minutes, Alicia observed, her keen eyes tracking the movements of guards below. Many humans entering main gate. Your open house has begun. I checked my equipment one last time. Institute ID badge, concealed communication device to signal the Faliran team, and a data device disguised as a standard research tablet, but modified to interface with the facility's security systems. Wait for my signal, I reminded Alicia, squeezing her hand before starting down toward the compound. Approaching the main gate, I adopted the confident yet slightly distracted demeanor of an academic. The security check was thorough, but not suspicious. My research institute credentials were genuine, after all, and I had legitimate reason to be interested in biotechnology advances. Dr. Marcus Reed. I introduced myself to the receptionist in the gleaming lobby. I'm conducting adaptive physiology research at the Eastern Preserve Institute. I heard about your open house from colleagues and hoped I might join a tour. After a brief verification of my credentials, I was assigned to a tour group led by a polished public relations representative named Diane. 6 other visitors, mostly corporate types, and a couple of academics, made up our group as we were guided through carefully selected portions of the facility. Nexus Biologics is at the forefront of biomimetic pharmaceutical development, Diane explained as we moved through laboratories where white-coated scientists worked with sophisticated equipment. By studying unique adaptations in rare species, we're developing compounds that can revolutionize human medicine. The tour was clearly choreographed to showcase impressive technology while revealing nothing of the company's unethical practices. I asked pointed but seemingly innocent questions about their specimen sources, trying to gather information that might help locate the captive Faliran. Your adaptive compounds show remarkable cellular regeneration properties, I commented during a presentation. What species provide the base genetic material? The healing rate suggests something beyond standard mammalian models. The scientist presenting hesitated just slightly before offering a vague answer about proprietary biological sources. I noticed Diane giving him a warning glance before smoothly transitioning to the next display. As the tour continued, I surreptitiously studied the facility layout, security camera placements, and access points. According to the information we'd gathered from the trapper's equipment, the secure research areas containing live specimens would be in the building's east wing, several floors below ground level. When the group paused for refreshments in a conference room, I saw my opportunity. "Excuse me," I said politely. "Could someone direct me to the restroom?" Diane pointed down the hallway. "Third door on the left. Please don't wander. Security protocol. I'll wait here to escort you back to the group." I thanked her and headed in the indicated direction, but once out of sight, quickly ducked into a side corridor. The facility's layout matched what we'd learned from the trapper's data. If I could reach the service elevator at the end of this hallway, I could access the lower levels. Heart pounding, I approached the elevator, only to find it required a security badge. I pulled out my modified tablet, activating the program designed to mimic security credentials. After tense seconds that felt like hours, the elevator panel blinked green and the doors slid open. The descent seemed endless. When the doors finally opened, I stepped into a clinically sterile corridor, white walls, bright lighting, and a distinct antiseptic smell that failed to completely mask something wilder beneath it. I moved cautiously forward, aware that I was now in the most secure section of the facility with limited time before my absence was noted. The corridor branched into several research areas, each secured by heavy doors with small observation windows. Peering through the first, I saw laboratory equipment, but no signs of captives. The second contained what appeared to be medical imaging technology. It was at the third door that my blood ran cold. Through the small window, I could see examination tables with restraints, and on one of them lay a Faliran male, unconscious or sedated, while technicians collected tissue samples from his exposed arm. The scene confirmed our worst fears. Living Faliran were indeed being used as unwilling test subjects. Moving further down the corridor, I found what appeared to be a containment area, a series of reinforced cells with transparent fronts. Inside each was a Faliran, some lying motionless on simple pallets, others sitting in defeated postures, a few pacing restlessly. I counted 12 captives visible from my position, both males and females, all showing signs of repeated tissue, sampling, and medical procedures. I needed to act quickly. Finding a deserted monitoring station, I connected my tablet to the security system. The software began working to disable the locks on the containment cells and create a diversion that would clear an escape route to the service area at the rear of the facility. As the program ran, I heard a voice behind me. "You're not authorized for this area." I turned to find a security guard, hand already moving to the weapon at his hip. Making a split-second decision, I grabbed a nearby fire extinguisher and discharged it directly at him, creating a cloud of white powder that momentarily blinded and disoriented him. Before he could recover, I struck him with the canister, hard enough to incapacitate, but hopefully not cause serious injury. The commotion attracted attention. Alarms began blaring as my presence was discovered. Abandoning stealth, I triggered the signal to Alicia and the extraction team, then ran to the containment area where my tablet had managed to disable the security locks. "I'm here to help," I shouted as the cell doors slid open. "Follow me if you want freedom." The captive Faliran were initially confused and suspicious, but as I continued to explain in broken phrases Alicia had taught me, understanding dawned. The stronger ones helped those weakened by captivity as we moved as a group toward the service area. The facility had gone into full lockdown. Security personnel converged from multiple directions as we navigated the corridors according to the escape route I had memorized. At one junction, we were cut off by armed guards. Trapped between white walls with nowhere to hide, I prepared for the worst. Then the lights went out. My tablet had successfully triggered the emergency protocols, disabling primary power throughout the East Wing. In the momentary confusion, the Faliran, with their superior night vision, seized the advantage. Moving with a coordination that belied their weakened state, they overwhelmed the guards before they could adjust to the darkness. This way, I urged, using the tablet's dim light to guide us through service corridors toward the loading dock. We encountered sporadic resistance, but the combination of darkness, confusion, and the Faliran's natural fighting abilities allowed us to push through. As we reached the loading area, I heard the distinctive sound of the facility's backup generators engaging. We had minutes at most before full systems were restored. I fumbled with the loading dock controls, finally managing to trigger the massive door to open just enough for us to slip beneath. Outside, the evening air carried the scent of approaching rain, perfect cover for our escape into the forest beyond the perimeter fence. "The fence is electrified," I warned as we approached the final barrier between captivity and freedom. As if on cue, a section of the fence suddenly collapsed inward. Beyond it stood Alicia, Drath, and the extraction team, having cut through the barrier during the power disruption. "Move quickly," Alicia called, helping guide the weakened captives through the opening. As the last Faliran passed through, facility spotlights blazed alive behind us, sweeping the grounds as security forces poured from the building. I scrambled through the fence just as bullets began striking around us. "Run," Drath commanded, supporting a particularly weakened female captive. We fled into the forest as rain began to fall, the downpour helping to mask our trail and thermal signatures. The extraction team had planned multiple diversion routes, separating into smaller groups to confuse pursuers. Alicia, 3 rescued captives, and I took the most direct path back toward Faliran territory. For hours we pushed through the darkness, the rain eventually giving way to misty darkness. The rescued Faliran, despite their ordeal, showed remarkable endurance. When one elderly male faltered, I supported him without hesitation, earning a look of surprised gratitude. "Rest," Alicia finally declared as we reached a small cave system she knew. "Safe here until morning." As the others collapsed in exhaustion, Alicia pulled me aside, her eyes gleaming in the darkness. "You succeeded. Many thought you would betray us or fail. I couldn't leave them there," I said simply. "What they were doing, it was inhuman. What they did was very human," she responded with unexpected wisdom. "But what you did was also human. shows two paths your kind can walk. She touched my face gently. You chose right path. By morning, we rendezvoused with the other groups at a predetermined location. Incredibly, all 12 captives had been successfully extracted, along with every member of our rescue team. Some bore injuries from the escape, but nothing life-threatening. The journey back to the Faliran village took 2 days, with frequent stops to accommodate the weakened former captives. During this time, I learned more about their ordeals, months or years of confinement, regular tissue sampling, experimental treatments, all without consent or compassion. Their stories strengthened my resolve to ensure Nexus Biologics would face consequences. Our return to the village was met with jubilation and disbelief. Families reunited with those they had thought lost forever. The council called an immediate gathering to hear what had happened and to formally acknowledge what I had done. Elder Quran addressed the assembled community, his voice carrying across the hushed gathering. Marcus Reed proved loyalty beyond doubt. Risked life for Faliran, not of his blood. He turned to me with solemn dignity. Council recognizes blood debt bond with Alicia. You are welcome among Faliran people as mate bonded. Drath stepped forward, and I tensed, expecting a challenge. Instead, he offered a small carved token, a fang-shaped pendant on a leather cord. For warrior who fights with mind and heart, he said gruffly, before stepping back. The celebration lasted well into the night. Food was shared, stories told, and for the first time, I saw the Faliran truly at ease, laughing, singing in their musical language, demonstrating traditional dances that showcase their natural grace and agility. As the festivities continued, Alicia and I slipped away to a quiet overlook above the village. The bioluminescent fungi cast everything in a soft blue glow, including her features as she turned to me. What happens now? She asked softly. You return to human world? The question had been weighing on me since our return. I had a career, colleagues, a life built around research and discovery. Yet in just days, my understanding of the world and my place in it had fundamentally shifted. I can't simply go back to collecting samples and writing papers, I admitted. Not knowing what I know now. Not after everything that's happened. Stay with us. The question held both hope and doubt. I need to return briefly, I explained, to report what Nexus Biologics is doing. Not revealing your people, but exposing their illegal operations in the preserve. And to gather my research, my personal belongings. I took her hands in mine. But then, if you'll have me, I'd like to come back. Her expression brightened. To study us like specimens. To learn from you as equals, I corrected. To help protect your territory from further incursions. And I hesitated, then committed to the truth, to explore what this bond between us truly means. Alicia's purr of contentment vibrated between us as she pressed her forehead to mine. Blood debt brought us together, she said. But choice keeps us so. In the days that followed, we began rebuilding what the trappers had damaged. The rescued captives gradually regained their strength, sharing knowledge of the outside world that would help the Faliran protect themselves. I documented everything I had witnessed at the facility, the unethical experimentation, the illegal operations in a protected preserve, carefully omitting any mention of the Faliran's true nature or location. When the time came for my temporary departure, the entire community gathered to witness a ceremony I hadn't expected. Elder Quran presented me with markings, natural dyes applied in patterns that symbolize protection and belonging. These marks tell all Faliran you're a clan friend, mate bonded, he explained. You go with our trust. Alicia walked with me to the edge of their territory. Return before new. Moon, she said, her tone making it both request and command. I promise, I replied, knowing with absolute certainty that I would keep this vow. Whatever challenges lay ahead, exposing Nexus Biologics, protecting the Faliran, bridging two worlds that had existed in ignorance of each other. I would face them with the strength of this unexpected bond. As I turned to begin my journey back to the human world, I carried with me far more than research samples or field notes. I carried the weight of responsibility for a hidden people, the determination to right a profound injustice, and the warmth of a connection that defied all biological categorization. I, Marcus Reed, had entered the Eastern Preserve as a scientist seeking data. I would return as something far more complex, a bridge between worlds, a defender of the hidden, and the chosen mate of a being who had fundamentally changed how I understood both humanity and the wild beyond. In saving Alicia from a trap, I had unwittingly freed myself from limitations I hadn't recognized. The narrow scope of my research, the boundaries of my understanding, the constraints of what I believed possible. And in her declaration of me as her mate, I had found not an alien custom to study, but a bond to honor and explore with an open heart and mind. I will return, I whispered to the forest as Alicia's form disappeared among the trees. And in that promise lay not just my future, but perhaps a new chapter in the relationship between humans and the remarkable beings with whom we unknowingly shared our world.